Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about astrology and careers and what careers one may be proficient in based on their chart. It'll show certain tendencies or proclivities towards certain careers and that one may be good at in any way. Well, first thing, obviously, I mean, you look at the career, the 10th house is associated with the career in astrology. You're going to look at that, the sign that's on the cusp of it. And also, I mean, that the ruler of that house, what house that is in, what planet, the planetary ruler of that house, and see what house it's in. In my chart, I have Aquarius on the cusp of my 10th house at 1 degree. I think that could indicate once the astrologer, always the astrologer. And the ruler, actually, one of the rulers, Uranus, is almost exactly conjunct my 6th house cusp. And that's like about it. That manifests with me, I think, is incorporating astrology in the daily routine in work. So I mean, it's really a strong indicator for as far as doing astrology. But everybody, I mean, somebody that has Aquarius on the 10th house cusp. I mean, what I'm saying basically is not everybody that has Aquarius on the 10th house cusp is going to be interested in the same thing, because Aquarius is about, it can be synonymous, can be connect with so many other different professions, and the whole chart, I mean, is going to be taken into consideration as well anyway. But the thing about it is, I mean, if you look at the sign on the 10th house cusp, now going back to Aquarius on the 10th house, using that as an example, while one may find a career, like in astrology, astronomy, aerospace, even rocket science, electronics, computers, innovation are some examples. Computers, electronics, a person may work in information technology and might even be work in a career connected with humanitarianism. But at the same time, sometimes what this means too is in some cases that people that have, as an example, Aquarius on the 10th house cusp may just exemplify, Aquarius characteristics, and, express Aquarius characteristics in career related matters. A person that has Aquarius on the 10th house cusp, as an example, may not necessarily do something Aquarius related as a career, but they might inject altruism, humanitarianism, and selflessness in career related matters. Now, in my example, like the ruler of that house, the ruler of the 10th house, one of the rulers falls in the 6th house of the daily routine. But in some cases, for some other people, it could be that somebody else may just be doing some work that might be 6th house related, such as something like Virgo related, because the 6th house corresponds with Virgo, something with analytics, working as a statistician, maybe in some health field as a dietitian or nutritionist or a doctor or nurse, a physician. Now, one of my other rulers of the 10th house also falls in my 12th house, and it's Saturn, because of course, as many of you know, I mean, Saturn and Uranus both rule Aquarius. So if you have two rulers of the 10th house, obviously look at both of them. Now, the 12th house is connected with the metaphysical, which includes astrology. So it's no surprise I've been doing this astrology for a pretty good time, because there's a number of indicators in my chart to be doing that. I even have Pluto in the 5th house, and Pluto can be connected with the occult, supernatural, which can include astrology. And I think a lot of 5th house placements could actually be very good, because when you have a placement in the 5th house, it could indicate something that you enjoy. And when you enjoy something, you have a tendency to be very proficient at it. Now, in astrology too, I mean, the 2nd house can be tied in with the career, because the 2nd house can be about how one may generate money. Now, and that could be in one's career. Now, the thing about it is, I'll use my chart as an example. Again, I have Gemini on the cusp of my 2nd house in my natal chart. Now, that could be doing some, work as, I mean, Gemini in the second house cusp, I mean, Gemini is very versatile, but it can point to some kind of making money through communication, through literary ability, through the use of the hands, such as refrigeration or auto mechanics. Um, but with me, I actually worked I was a sports writer for a local paper for some time. I also have Mercury making it makes a trine to my natal Jupiter, so that could be very auspicious for writing in something sports related. And so there's other things. What I'm going to get to the sixth house momentarily, but the thing about it is, people, they understand in astrology and careers. I mean, astrology chart, of course, is very intricate, as many of you may know, very complex, and a person at times may not even do something in their work that is connected with the 10th, 2nd, or 6th house, because sometimes, you have to look at there's other things in the chart which could indicate certain abilities, and you might just go to do something that you enjoy based on your ability, but more often than not, the work that you do may very well be tied into the 10th, 2nd, or 6th house one way or another, because at the very least, you'd likely be even if you're not doing work in connection with it, you may be injecting those qualities that are connected with the sign on the house into that work. So those houses would play often some role, at least in your work, but it may not always be the work you do. Keep in mind too that we obviously have people that don't work. If you have, like, say, Saturn in the 10th house, that could be limitations or restrictions in one's career, or malefics in the 6th can sometimes indicate some debilitation, which might prevent you from working, or at least substantially. I have Uranus on the cusp of my 6th house, and with me, I've had, as far as regular, full-time work, it's been some time since I've been involved in it. I have irrevocable nerve damage. So, there's really, and of course, Uranus, as many of you may know, rules can be connected with the nerves. But anyway, now, also, you going back to the second house, you could look at where the ruler of the second house is in. Now, my ruler of my second house in my example, okay, I stated before, I have Gemini on the cusp of the seventh house. Of the second house. That ruler is in the second house, but it is making conjunction to the third house cusp. So it can reaffirm doing something, making money through communication. And being in the second house, that could also be doing some kind of work, second house related, Taurus related, such as working like as a stockbroker or financial advisor, or like architecture, agriculture, something second house related. It can indicate that the person can have perhaps some good financial acumen if you have the ruler of the second house in the second house. Now, going to the sixth house in astrology. Now, the sixth house in astrology is connected with work and employment. Sometimes can be the career, but it can indicate the work one may do. Now, in my case, okay, I have Libra on the cusp of my sixth house. So, I'm not really doing anything. I'm not doing anything Libra related as far as employment goes, but somebody else, with me, I think it just manifests in having some peace and tranquility connected with whatever work or employment I may be involved in. Sometimes it can be Libra can be connected with the arts. When I was younger, I actually used to draw superhero characters, and I was going to aspire to be perhaps like a superhero artist. I like to draw Spider-Man. I did have an affinity for drawing that. Also of Taurus rising. So, that could be an affinity for the arts right there, because of course the ascendant can be connected with our natural abilities, and really and the qualities we can express naturally. Now, I also have that ruler of the sixth house. It's Venus in the fourth house. So what that could indicate is that the place I might do my work could be very well from my home. So that is where that could indicate that's where the work may very well be done. So anyway, and and the thing about it too is there's also, I mean, another thing to look at as far as prominent points in the chart that can be associated with the career. I mean, Saturn. Sometimes the Saturn placement, even by sign or by house, can be an indicator for that sign. Say somebody has Saturn in Scorpio, and they got it like in they have Saturn Scorpio in their fourth house. That could be somebody that might be doing some kind of work Scorpio related out of the home, like locksmithing, or maybe they have some embalming going on there, or something with the occult, the astrology, supernatural, something that could be Scorpio related out of the home. There might be some recycling at or by the home that the person may be in business, and this is so Saturn is something to look at as well as far as that goes. Now, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but Nikola Tesla, he was somebody that was a very famous innovator. You really don't hear about him as much, I don't think, compared to Albert Einstein, but Tesla, I think his last name was, he had, now he had Capricorn on the cusp of his 10th house, but I would say it likely progressed into Aquarius around the time when he was starting to make his patents for his innovations. And he also has, I mean, the 11th house, he has Aquarius on in the natal chart. But the 11th house can be tied in with our aspirations and goals. And he had that in Aquarius, and of course that could be connected with ingenuity and innovation. He invented numerous items, had numerous patents, I believe, for them. He also had the ruler of the 11th house in the first house, so that's an indicator. People can see he was very inventive on a first impression. Hold on a moment, people. So anyway, and then I looked at a legendary prolific boxer, Muhammad Ali, in his chart. Now he has Mars conjunct his midheaven in bullheaded Taurus, and the thing was, I think that may have very likely played a role in what he in terms of his career, because Mars can be connected with combat and fighting. He was in a fighting sport. But the thing about it is there's also, I mean, other things in the chart to look. I mean, the ascendant is what flavors a lot of what flavors our energies. I mean, because the ascendant is basically like the filtration device that that our astrological energies come out of. And Muhammad Ali, as great a fighter as he was, some believe he was unequivocally the best boxer in history, and I still think he very well was. But this was done with a lot of flamboyancy. He was in a very with a lot of confidence and self-assuredness. Some people even may have felt Muhammad Ali was arrogant, but he did back up the talk with the walk in the ring, and he was just very, I mean, one of the greatest boxers of all time. I think he was likely, I mean, he was the best boxer of all time. He also had Jupiter in Gemini, which I think, I mean, you talk about Jupiter, though seen as a generational planet, Jupiter could still be pretty prominent in one's chart. It is a big, it's expansive planet, and it could expand. I mean, I've talked about how Jupiter can be in other videos. Some of you may have heard when I talk about Jupiter. Of course, could be very benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. It'd be very paradoxical. And I think it expanded and enlarged Muhammad Ali's ability to talk, and he was very, I mean, garrulous, I think, at times, to say the least, and also expanded a very good wit, being Jupiter in Gemini. There was one picture of him one time. I remember that there was I guess you could say it was like an iconic photo. He had a piece of tape on his mouth, and then there was like a padlock or some combination lock right by it. as well. I guess it was like he was symbolically saying, I'm not gonna talk. I'm gonna keep my big mouth shut right now. Basically, is what he was conveying. But anyway, I just wanted to just let you know that there's other things to look at in addition to the second house, the sixth house, and the 10th house in a chart for one's career and what one may be suitable for in terms of the career. Those, although usually at least one of them can figure prominently one way or another in one's career. And going back again to the Aquarius on the 10th house cusp example, and in some cases that could indicate that one may actually rebel from an actual career. So don't think, well, just because I got Aquarius on my 10th house cusp, I'm going to do something Aquarius related as far as my career goes. It was interesting. Some of you may have remembered he was renowned. I don't know what he actually did exactly, but he was involved in science. It was Carl Sagan, I believe his name was, and he, of course, debunked astrology. And he had stated in some video, I believe, something about how can one person that has an identical chart to another, how come one can go in one direction and one goes in the other direction? Well, the thing about that is it's because the statement itself was obviously based on superficial knowledge of astrology. It's something where, okay, like going back to the Aquarius on the 10th house cusp example, Carl Sagan, ironically, has Aquarius on his 10th, had Aquarius on his 10th house cusp in his natal chart, and he did something connected with astronomy, I believe, or something with space. And he was, and that's what he was. One of the things he was really renowned for. But going back to that example, you could have somebody that has, you could have somebody with identical charts. It doesn't mean they're going to go in identical career paths. Two people born at the same day, same time, same location, both have Aquarius on the 10th house cusp as an example. One may be some astrophysicist or astronomer, and then you might have another that's an astrologer or an innovator. Another person might be in computer, some kind of engineering with computer, working with electronics, working with remote control devices, doing humanitarian work. You might have somebody else rebelling from work completely and really and just being and just or somebody that might just be injecting those some Aquarius qualities in their career, such as altruism and selflessness, and maybe even consideration, and maybe bringing some innovative quality into their work. Somebody that might be able to improvise on the job, for example, and make use of little and maybe create something out of virtually nothing to do something in terms of their work. There was one time, I worked at a Kmart one time, and again, going back to the fact I have Aquarius on the cusp of my 10th house, I thought it was a little ingenuity I incorporated at this time. There was something where, okay, we were trying to bring a box up to the front, and we just didn't really have like the means. I don't know if we didn't have any pallets in the back or something, but somehow me and a manager at the store, I came with an idea. Okay, I said there's a way out of this. We're going to actually use two of these pallet jacks, and we're going to put this great big item we're going to put it on both of them somehow. We're going to have part of the item on one pallet jack, we'll have part of the item on the other, and we somehow brought it up using both of the pallet jacks. So it's a little, that quirky energy can be injected in some kind of career, and it's really, a little ingenuity, I guess you could say. So that's basically what I wanted to get to as far as astrology and one's career. And one last thing, also Venus in the chart can indicate, it might be something that we may make money in, that we enjoy. Somebody that's got Venus in Leo, for example, might do something in the entertainment world or make money through doing work with children, or some kind of again, going back to entertainment, it could be somebody in a circus, or somebody working as an actress or an actor, maybe somebody making money as a cardiologist, a person that might make money by simply being even a product demonstrator. Leo can often boast up the products and talk about the good qualities and connection with it, or even in sports, and even more specifically, even golf as an example. So anyway, people, That'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.